We're going to take prophets once again that you're probably familiar with, and we're going to put them next to each other to talk about the quantum shift. I'm going to share with you how it applies to actual science and that there's no mistaking this and that there is a reality right now that you can choose. Not just being a better person to make the world better, an actual reality that you can shift into. And I'm going to explain how these prophets were actually talking about the quantum shift. And I'm going to use facts about science and some very brilliant people to show you that's exactly how this works. Are you ready to shift into it? Because it's a choice, and you and I are making it right now. Let's go. Welcome to Landria Onkka on YouTube. I am here to help you break through the fears because fears keep you back and they reside in a lower frequency. Absolutely everything you place your attention on and what goes on behind it is creating and shifting you into a completely different reality that exists right now. I'm going to explain how the quantum shift works. Hope you'll subscribe and share my videos because whatever anybody else out there places their attention on, they become entangled with also. And if they believe it, they create it. Let's share good news with them because that's what I have for you today. We're going to talk about the five prophets, five completely different people. We've talked about them before, completely different centuries who all described this moment right now using the same language. So Cayce didn't know Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon didn't know the Hopi elders. None of them knew Chris Bledsoe, and none of them knew Baba Vanga. And yet every single one of them described the same shift, the same split, the same emergence of a new kind of human consciousness. That's what we're going to talk about. Because what's happening out there is pure consciousness, and you, the mind, not the brain, is behind which consciousness is chosen, therefore creating the 3D world results. And I want to give you a real definition, not a fluffy one. A quantum shift is a fundamental change in the underlying field that is reality, that reality is rendered from. What does rendered mean? We're actually choosing an existing reality. We're not creating. We are creators, co-creators. We're creating our reality, but we're choosing from something that exists because everything exists at once. That's why everybody's always right. And there's no reason to ever argue if they believe it. It is. And so that which you place your attention on, you're creating. So you have to remember what quantum physics has already proven. The observer collapses the wave into the particle. If I place my attention on a situation, anything, I'm looking at a probability, and through my observation, it becomes a reality. Meaning what you focus on, what you hold as true, it's actually the beliefs behind the observation that has the most power. What you believe with feeling, that is not just your opinion. That is what you're bringing into physical reality. You're rendering an existing reality, and you'll say, see, this is truth. This is how it is. And the universe says, yes. I've brought up Federico Faggin before. I'm going to talk about him later in this video, and you're going to want to hear this because he's the man who invented the microprocessor. Yeah, ever hear of him? We wouldn't have this if it wasn't for him. And he has something very powerful to say about this that's based on science. He's not a mystic. He's an engineer's engineer, and he spent the last 30 years proving that consciousness is not produced by the brain. You can think all you want with the brain, but the mind is driving all of that. The brain's a receiver. Consciousness is the primary field. That's what you and I are working in, the quantum field from which all physical reality is rendered, not created, rendered, because it already exists. We are choosing which version of it to bring into focus. We're only choosing a version, and therefore we experience it. So when I say quantum shift, I mean the field we are all co-creating from is changing. Okay, the frequency is changing. And five prophets describe this in precise detail before most of us were born. So let's look at them one by one. We know about Edgar Cayce. He was an ordinary man from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, who would enter a trance state and deliver readings, medical, spiritual, prophetic, that he had zero conscious memory of afterward. He said things that he didn't even personally believe himself. Over 14,000 documented readings, of which have been since verified. Now, there's debate about how Cayce accessed information, but here's what I want you to focus on, what he said, because what he said about this time period is extraordinary. He called it the emergence of a new root race. And before you get tripped up by that language, he wasn't talking about biology. He was talking about frequency, a new category of human consciousness. He said that human beings would begin to operate from a higher vibrational state and that the DNA itself would begin to respond to light differently. So now we're talking about energy forming completely different things physically and in the unseen world. Does any of this sound familiar? Because Bruce Lipton has spent decades showing us exactly how epigenetics works, that the energetic environment directly signals your DNA expression. That out there is changing this in here, okay? Because we are creating that, and therefore it's reflected back into our physical being. Cayce described that mechanism 80 years ago, before the science had the language for it. So now we're paying attention to these prophets more and more. Here's the piece most people skip. Cayce said it would not happen all at once. This is not one event. He said it would happen in waves. And the people who were awake, who were aware, would feel it first. Do you feel it? I want you to remember that. The next prophet mapped it in real time, thousands of times. That's Dolores Cannon. She spent 45 years doing past life regressions with patients and finding out that she was getting all kinds of information through those patients. She was not a channeler herself. She said she was actually accessing what she called the subconscious or the higher self. You have access to this at all times. It's always going on. To Earth, she described a splitting, not a physical splitting, a vibrational one. We know it creates a new 3D world. So we'll see some changes in the physical world. She said Earth is moving into a higher frequency, and those who are ready will move into it, and those who are not will remain at a different trajectory. And she said, I want you to hear this. She said that the people watching content like this are here on purpose. They chose to be here. They volunteered for this. That is you. If you saw my last video, I talked about complaints is judgment, is separation. These things must be removed in order to shift into a higher frequency. This is what we're talking about. And there's been debate about whether she's describing something metaphorical or literal. Let's be honest, it doesn't matter. Because what she described maps exactly onto what quantum physics calls superposition, the idea that multiple probability fields exist simultaneously, and that your consciousness determines which one becomes real for you. Your amazing reality exists right now. It's not something we have to formulate. It's something that we create through observation. And that is the frequency, the beliefs, the thoughts, the actions. You shift into it. Now, here's where it gets specific, and I mean specific. Yeah, Chris Bledsoe. Now, there's a little controversy around that, but we're going to be watching him. I'm going to have some videos coming out. If you've been following this channel, you know I've covered Bledsoe extensively. He's a contactee, someone who has had direct, documented, government-verified contact with a being of light he calls the Lady. The CIA has studied him. The Pentagon knows who he is. This is not fringe. This is on record. Okay, there's a little controversy. Maybe he's getting a little bit too close to some of these misinformation people, but we're not here to judge that today. In a recent short that Bledsoe did, I covered what Bledsoe said about answers that we would receive on October 7th of 2026. He connected it to the Sphinx, to a star alignment with Regulus, and he said what happens in that window will be visible, not metaphorical, visible. So there is a physical component to all of this. None of this will happen if we do not choose the higher frequency in order to shift into that existing timeline. Nothing's in stone. And I always say that dates are anchors, not certainties. But here's what I want you to focus on. Bledsoe's message from this lady that he sees that gives him all these answers about this coming beautiful time period and some strife that we have to go through in order for the old world to dissolve. It's consistent with Cayce describing the new root race. It maps on what Dolores said about the vibrational split. Three independent sources. Why do they keep talking about this? Why does this keep coming up? They are warnings. And now we're understanding through quantum physics, and we're going to talk about that, absolutely is proving that's what happens, that we're controlling it. Hit that subscribe button. The more people that listen to these messages instead of the negativity out there, the more the collective will go into a high frequency and understand the power that they wield. So let me give you Prophet 4. This one goes back even further. And this is Baba Vanga. She's a Bulgarian mystic. And a lot of what she said actually was not written down. She certainly didn't give dates, but we're still talking about a new era and the cataclysmic events that will happen before that. She was blind at age 12 through a storm that came through. She predicted the 9/11 attacks. She predicted the 2004 tsunami, the rise of ISIS, decades before any of it occurred. Her documented accuracy is pretty high, supposedly above 85%. This is a track record. So what did she say about now? She said a new consciousness would emerge in humanity, that those who carried the old frequency, the frequency of fear, separation, ego-driven survival, listen to that, judgment, opinions, what I believe about somebody, is that going through your head? It's judgment and separation. It's negative. We got to catch it. Those people, ego-driven souls, would find themselves increasingly unable to adapt to the world that's coming. And that a group of human beings she described as the new people would begin to demonstrate awareness and abilities that current science cannot yet explain. Sound like anyone you know? Let's be honest, you're not watching this by accident. Let's talk about the Hopi. The Hopi elders have carried oral prophecy for thousands of years. The Blue Star Kachina prophecy, the emergence of a fifth world, describes a purification time followed by a new era of unity consciousness, a time when the illusion of separation dissolves, because we're creating it as an illusion, but it actually really doesn't exist at all. It is a reality wherein we are unified. The illusion that we're choosing, yes, it's real to us, but it's illusion of separation that is actually not truth. It's choice. And that's why everybody can be right. The Hopi didn't use the word quantum, but they described exactly what quantum entanglement describes, that all things are connected, that the separation we experience is the illusion, that when enough human beings remember their connection to source, the world itself changes. Because they're all one thing. 5 prophets, 5 centuries, 5 cultures, one message. Now you're going to love this, because we're going to bring it in to the current times where we've actually proven, not through any kind of woo-woo guessing or law of attraction, that we actually hold this power, and that each one of you can do this today. Federico Faggin, the Science Bridge. Now, here's why I want to show you, because I know some of you watching are thinkers. You want the science, and I respect that. I want the science too. Federico Faggin invented the microprocessor. He built the silicon foundation of every computer and smartphone that exists today. This is a very smart guy. This is not a mystic, an engineer's engineer, a man who spent his career solving the hardest technical problems in human history. And by the way, was a materialist through and through. And after decades of building technology, he had what he describes as a mystical experience, a moment in which he felt himself expand into a field of infinite love and intelligence. And he spent the next 30 years trying to explain it scientifically. His conclusion: consciousness is not produced by the brain. The brain is a receiver. Consciousness is the primary field, the quantum field, from which all physical reality is rendered, chosen. All physical reality is existing and chosen by you. And as Federico says, rendering isn't creating something, it's bringing into existence what already exists. We're choosing through our focus, through our belief, through our frequency, which version of reality we bring into form. And that's why there's nothing on this planet or your life that cannot be changed immediately. Yes, there's cause and effect from the things that you have done. We'll follow through. And maybe the thing that you thought was going to be so terrible somehow turns around because all things are possible and every reality exists. But you have to know it and focus upon that. Now, you have to remember what Cayce said. The new root race operates at a higher vibrational frequency. Dolores said, the new earth is a high vibrational trajectory. Bledsoe said, something visible is arriving in the 2026 window. What Vanga said, a new consciousness is emerging. What the Hopi said, the fifth world is unity consciousness. This is very hopeful, my friend. But it's only hopeful because it exists as a probability. What's going to really happen is when you choose it. And then hope, it becomes a reality. Faggin's science doesn't contradict any of that. It explains it. So the quantum shift is a change in the frequency of the field we are all rendering from. So we are deciding instead of this island, we're going to shift slightly and now we're going to hit this island. And it's so far away, we can't see it. We don't even realize if we shift just this much, we're going to miss that island and hit this one, or maybe no island at all. And that's why sometimes you cannot see that future. It seems so far away, but that one little shift takes you into completely different rendering. And the fact that you're here watching this, feeling what you feel, you're part of that change. I'm going to ask you right now to never lose sight of that beautiful reality. Because here's the trap, and I want to be honest with you about this. Let's talk about the identity pivot. You are the shift. We continually look to others to tell us what's going to happen, and you are the shift. This is the big breakthrough that's going to happen this year to the point where you can't ignore it anymore, that so much more proof is going to be given to you that thoughts are things that you're doing it. There are no coincidences. It is all happening through your beliefs, your actions, your choice. And you're that powerful. And you can say, okay, something big is coming. And then you go back to your day, back to the news, back to the fear, back to the story of a world that looks like it's falling apart because we are making it fall apart. We're allowing it. We're fearful of that. And therefore, we help to create more of that. And I get it. The world does look like it's falling apart right now. Yes, of course, old buildings have to be blown up before a new one can be built on that property. And the rubble must be cleared away. That's all that's going on right now. Don't fear the people in power. They won't hold any if we don't participate in that reality. And don't get caught up. You will see distractions. Oh, the government's going to give us all kinds of answers. It's going to reveal certain things. It doesn't matter. We don't need them because you're walking around with your power. And the more you're distracted by that and giving your power or your future to them, whatever they say, or they say the future is, or they say aliens are, or whatever else they come up with, it's not truth. It's the truth they want you to believe. Are you ready for this? A lot of people are scared and they're looking for something real to hold on to when they don't know they're creating it. Here's what I need you to hear. You're not a passive observer of this shift. You're the co-creator of it. You're a free will chooser. You're choosing an existing reality. Therefore, you're a co-creator. Anything you see is one probability of endless ones, and you are choosing which one you bring into reality through your focus in every moment. Not necessarily what you want, what you believe, what you think, what you hold, what you render. So those of you who go into negative thinking and you're constantly judging, you say, oh, I'm just trying to correct things, or oh, that doesn't look right, is still ego judging. It's a lower frequency. And when you remove it, you realize, holy cow, there's always something positive that I can think. And in my last video, I gave you a whole bunch of exercises on how to do that. It's pretty easy, and it can completely change your world. So what are you doing to contribute to this new world? That's the real question. Not when is it happening? It's happening now. And you are doing it. Not will I make it to the new earth. You are building it right now with every thought, every choice, every single moment. You choose love over fear. Can you turn the story around? Of course, because all things are possible. Christ walked on water. It wasn't just Christ. These things you shall do and more were included in that. The lady that Chris Bledsoe saw, Her intention is for you to realize that you are a sovereign creator. No, it is done. It is not something you have to create, and focus on. It is done, and you're just focusing on it to bring that existing reality into your experience and mine. 5 prophets, new root races, new earth split. Consciousness is primary. Reality is rendered. You are the observer who collapses the wave. It's that simple. They're all one thing, and that one thing is you, awake, aware, present, here on purpose. That's our mission. If this resonated with you, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and change the algorithms on YouTube and the entire internet, because we're teaching it. We're teaching all of it, what we want, by what we're looking at. It doesn't know why we're looking at it. It just knows that you like something negative. You want to explore what the government's doing, and therefore it says, oh, that's the world you want. I'll give you more of that. It works the same way across the internet and in the unseen world that you and I are creating. If you like this, please drop a comment. Do you feel the shift? Are you catching yourself? Are you catching the thoughts? Do you believe all things exist at once and that you're choosing it? Do you believe that somebody else has power over that future, that reality, and that you do not? I want to hear what you have to say. And I hope that those of you who want some answers, this was a downloaded book. I was just going into the super consciousness and getting answers without my own ego talking. That's what you can do every day. Meditate. You are whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Those of you who would like products that are clean, non-toxic, don't harm animals, I will continually put those in the description, and let us support that world and those business owners who respect the planet and bother to do things to help us to live in that world. And you have to participate in it. You have to entangle with that to make it happen. There are no excuses. Don't tell me you can't afford it, because these things are actually less expensive. Yes, they last longer, and it's not going into our water systems. The time is now. You are whole and perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. That's from the Master Key System. Somebody turned their life completely around, had a few months to live, and used that one saying over and over again to completely change his life and heal and live to be an old man. That's the power of your words that you believe. So even if you don't believe it, say the words. Say the powerful words of the reality you want to render. This is science, and we're going to talk more about that. And I'm going to show you some amazing things that's happening out there that proves, with scientists who don't believe in God, that you and I are creating, and that dual and endless realities and universes all exist at once. I'll see you there, somewhere out there. Namaste.